Good morning. Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. With me, your host, Owen James, channel that brings you your Rangers updates. We are going to talk next Rangers manager on the back of a couple of things. Obviously, stories emerging that strongly link Davide Ancelotti, son of legendary football head coach Carlo Ancelotti. I would have loved Carlo Ancelotti. I mean, guy's going to have to coach Brazil. A guy who's, I would say, Carlo Ancelotti, probably one of, if not the greatest managers of all time. I mean, Carlo Ancelotti, a guy who played in that legendary Milan team with Baresi and Maldini and Costa Curta and Albertini, and Marco Simone, and just absolute legends. Van Basten and Hullet, just absolute legends. Sebastiano Rossi, just quality. And then obviously has coached Milan, coached Madrid, coached just absolutely fantastic, brilliant manager. But his son obviously is following in his footsteps. We'll talk a little bit about him. Also, I'm going to talk about obviously a bit about Barry today, talking about the fact that he doesn't think he's getting any respect, and says he would have got more respect had he been a foreign coach. That was interesting as well. But look, I mean, Barry Ferguson, I think is looking. I want to be careful what I say here because I kind of tried to point out the stats and facts of Barry's management the other day and got absolutely vilely slaughtered by some so-called Rangers fans the other day for pointing out that his management statistically and factually has not been good enough in terms of his defensive stats, his attacking stats, his points per game, etc., or facts and stats. But seems that the truth is not wanted. But he said today that. He feels that he has not had any respect. He's looking to me, and this is just my opinion, and look, it's probably wrong, because most of my opinions seem to be these days. He's looking increasingly desperate, like he's absolutely desperate for this job, but he's kind of starting to realise that, like a kid demanding the most ridiculous of Christmas presents, he's not going to get that Christmas present. Like the kid who goes to his mum or his dad on Christmas Eve and demands a unicorn. It's just not going to happen, is it? You're going to need the magic of Harry Potter, I think, to turn him into a good football manager. His win percentage is about 32%, which for Rangers manager is simply not good enough. His overall career win percentage is 42% as a manager, which again is clearly not good enough. And his statistics obviously show, statistics which are facts, not opinions, show that he isn't up to the job. Now, he did say today that in his opinion, he isn't having enough respect. And had he been a foreign manager, he would have got a little bit more respect. I don't think that's true, Barry, because the question I'm going to ask is, and before anyone comes in here and starts slagging me off for saying that I'm talking pish, did Philippe Clement, near the end of his time, get any more respect because he was Belgian? Did Paul Le Guen get any more respect because he was French? Did Pedro Cainha get any more respect because he was Portuguese? Well, I would say not. So I think, to be honest with you, Barry, you're actually wrong on that one. I don't think it would matter if you were French, German, Spanish, Italian, English, from Mars. It's not based on respect. It's based on the fact that you just haven't done a very good job as the manager. And that's why you're not perhaps getting any credit, because what you've done hasn't really merited any credit. For me to get credit, you need to be, as Rangers manager, have a win percentage of around 75-80%, to be winning the vast majority of your games and beating the poor teams. And I think, we as a fan base, we gave Michael Beale, an absolute shed load of stick for his awful management. We gave Philippe Clement a load of stick for his awful management, and Gio at the end, unfairly, I think, got a lot of criticism as well. So, look, I think you're talking a little bit of rubbish there, Barry. It's time you accepted you're not going to get the job. You really do need to accept that now. It is not your job to take, and the 49ers have far bigger names, far better coaches in mind for the job, in my opinion. I mean, if you look at the present manager odds, these are the present manager odds, and you can see that Barry Ferguson's odds have long since drifted out, now 25-1, whereas they were a lot shorter. These are the odds with Sky Bet. So Davide Ancelotti is the odds-on favourite at the moment, 2-5. Steven Gerrard at 3-1. Russell Martin at 12-1. Danny Röhl, the former Sheffield Wednesday manager, at 14-1. I like Danny Röhl. He's a good manager, good coach. Marco Rosa at 14-1, another very good coach. Barry Ferguson at 25-1. Derek McInnes at 25-1. Mourinho drifting out to 25-1. I think there was never any chance of that. Gary O'Neill 33s and Kevin Muscat 33s. I think everybody from around 25-1 now can be ruled out. I think, you're looking at that top 5 as being probably the 5 they are talking to. It's been reported by For Lads Had a Dream and by Rangers Review that there are talks ongoing as regards the next Rangers manager. The candidate that seems to be the man that is being favoured is this man here, Davide Ancelotti, which I think is very exciting. I think this is a very exciting appointment. I think it really genuinely would. I mean, what you've got to remember is that there are coaches around the world that have gone on from having very little coaching experience to being phenomenal successes going forward. I mean, Mourinho started as a translator at Barcelona, working for Sir Bobby Robson, and went on and has gone on to be one of the greatest managers of all time. Francesco Farioli, a more modern example, has very little management experience. Has very little management experience, but has gone on to do a very fine job at Nice and a very fine job at Ajax. Perhaps hasn't done that, has obviously faded away a little bit this season, but, has done a good job there. You look as well at likes of Will Still, another one who's gone on to have good success. Graham Potter, another one. There are examples of these guys who have gone on. Andre Villas-Boas, I know he wasn't particularly successful in England, but has had success around the world as a manager. Again, someone who didn't have a massive playing career. I mean, Davide Ancelotti didn't have a playing career to speak of. He spent his youth career with AC Milan, is when he surprised following in his father's footsteps. He went to Borg Manero on loan, and then obviously on a permanent basis. We don't really know anything about what he did there. There's not really many stats and facts. However, his coaching background, and I think football's got to open its mind a little more to these possibilities. If you look at other sports, there are examples of guys who've been phenomenally successful coaches, particularly in America and American sports, who haven't particularly succeeded in the professional game, but have succeeded with their coaching. You look at obviously some of the guys like Kyle Shanahan, who is the 49ers coach, was never a player, but is a phenomenal coach. A lot of these guys come up through the ranks by learning their trade at every single level. And Davide Ancelotti started as a fitness coach at Paris Saint-Germain. He's also been an assistant manager at some of the best clubs in world football. Bayern Munich, Napoli, Everton, there's a blip there, and Real Madrid. I mean, obviously Everton, everybody's got their cross to bear in life, haven't they? I mean, little tin pot club like Everton, but Bayern Munich, Napoli and Real Madrid, 3 massive clubs. I mean, Real Madrid, whatever you think of them, whether you have any respect for them or not, they are the behemoth of world football. They are the biggest club in the world, and they've had phenomenal success under Ancelotti, winning Champions Leagues, etc. Napoli, of course, a team that have won Lo Scudetto, a team obviously not whilst Ancelotti was there, but have won trophies whilst he was there. Bayern Munich as well. This is a guy who has learned from the very best. Like I said, he's learned from Carlo Ancelotti. Carlo Ancelotti he is the Don of coaches, isn't he? He is the godfather of coaches. Ancelotti Junior, Davide Ancelotti, actually retired at the age of 20 to pursue a career in management. He got a sports science degree at the age of 22. Now, like I said to you, his first ever foray into management came in 2012 when he became fitness coach at Paris Saint-Germain under his father, of course. He moved to Spain when Ancelotti Senior, that's Carlo, moved to Spain to manage Real Madrid. Davide followed him and worked as assistant to the club's fitness coach, and I think we've got to kind of think about this. He's worked at Bayern Munich, he's worked at Real Madrid. He's worked with some of the world's best players. At the moment, obviously working with the likes of Jude Bellingham, Vinny Jr., Luka Modric, Toni Kroos. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal talents. He got his UEFA A license, his coaching license in 2016. He finished top of his class that year. I mean, that is a guy, obviously, no football background, beating ex-footballers. He took the position of assistant manager to Carlo Ancelotti at Bayern Munich. He worked closely with a guy called Thiago Alcantara, a very fine footballer. So he has got an excellent dynamic with the playing staff. He then obviously went to Napoli, followed his father again to Napoli to serve as his assistant. And he made his managerial debut stepping in for his father against a game against Roma, which they did actually lose to Roma, but Roma are a very decent side. He then went off to Spain, obviously to work with him with Real Madrid. He obviously has his UEFA Pro license already, so obviously is obviously eligible to become a manager. He attained that license in July 2023, graduating from a UEFA Pro coaching license course in Wales, of all places. So he's obviously used to getting wet. Obviously used to horrible weather as well. So he'll be used to, he'll be all perfect for Scotland then, wouldn't he? He was described by many journalists in Spain as Real Madrid's secret weapon, a guy who, is a set-piece specialist, a guy who can coach set pieces, a guy who can coach team shape, team formation, a guy who is described as being a master tactician. Everyone has to have their star somewhere, and Ancelotti, to me, seems to be a very exciting candidate, a very exciting person, a very interesting possibility. And whatever you think of this possibility to appoint him, people say, well, he's never worked in Scotland. Well, yeah, but he's worked in England, and the intensity and the aggression in English football is every bit the same as it is in Scottish football. The intensity, the speed of play, the rivalry. Obviously there's not the rivalry of Celtic Rangers, don't get me wrong, but you've got obviously the rivalries Everton Liverpool, Everton Man United. You've got those rivalries there, not as strong, nowhere near as, but still he has a sense of what is rivalry. Real Madrid Barcelona, for example. But in terms of the English side of the games, he's looked at and he's worked in that environment, in the English environment, and the English environment is, at the moment, the best in the world. It is the best league in the world. So look, he has worked in a number of good locations, and worked in a number of outstanding clubs, like I said, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, and Napoli, and worked for and under. Forget the fact that it's his dad. He has worked under one of the greatest managers of all time in Carlo Ancelotti. So, look, if this guy is to be the next Rangers manager, I think it's an exceptionally exciting opportunity for him, and it's an exceptionally exciting opportunity for the club as well. I think he's someone who can come in and get the best out of a number of players, and it's hopefully the start of a very exciting new era for the club. It's a positive. It's a massive positive at the end of what has been an absolutely dreadful season. So, look, you may be against it. Fine. I personally think this would be a great appointment. This would be a fabulous appointment. Of those managerial candidates that I had on that list, Ancelotti absolutely would love that. Russell Martin is a big no for me, but Danny Rule is another one. I think Danny Rule would be a brilliant appointment. Very good coach, did very well with a very average Sheffield Wednesday team full of very average players. Marco Rosa, I think another one would be a very good appointment. I think these would all be very, very good appointments, and I think we need to get away from this. It's got to be a Rangers man. It's got to be somebody Scottish. It's got to be the best person for the job. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And remember, we are the people.